We're currently facing one of the highest unemployment numbers we have ever seen, or at least since the Great Depression. NBC News reports unemployment rate soars to 14.7%, highest level since the Great Depression. This is the biggest and most acute shock that we've seen in post-war history, said one economist. And the reason for this very high unemployment rate, while not exclusively the fault of the Democrats, to a great degree is the fault of the Democrats. I know, I'm biased, and you'll just point out I often rag on the Democrats, but I think I got data to back this up, and I think I've got at least somewhat of a compelling argument. You see, the other day, I did a bunch of stories about people flooding to beaches, defying lockdown orders. I did a bunch of stories talking about people flooding to bars in New York City, not wearing masks, violating social distancing. So much so that Bill de Blasio said, we're going to shut these businesses down. So hold on a second. How do we have record unemployment, businesses defying lockdown orders, people going out for drinks en masse, violating social distancing, people flooding to the beaches? It seems like things are getting back to normal, yet we're still seeing a very high unemployment rate. Well, first and foremost, the virus is not the fault of Democrats or Republicans. For the most part, it's the fault of China. I know the tribal left will still get mad at me for saying that, but that's the case. I think, even though Bill de Blasio, Andrew Cuomo, New York did a very poor job to a certain degree, 99% of the responsibility lands on China, man. I mean, we were all caught off guard. Trump made some early moves. A lot of people downplayed this. The media did. Trump certainly downplayed it. Everybody caught off guard was caught off guard. And you know what? I think as Americans, we can let bygones be bygones, focus on the real problem, which is China. And as of right now, Australia has called for an investigation into the origin of the virus. But I don't want to talk about that. What I want to talk about is the unemployment rate. Well, of course, right now there are lockdowns across the country. So yes, of course, there will be high unemployment, right? Take a look at this tweet. This is from David Caltabiano. Quote, "No one wants to come back to work. Phoenix restaurant Times Square said they have more than 30 openings with few job applications. The owner says the furloughed employees told her they make more money from Unemployment Plus CARES Act than they do working for her. And we have heard the same story over and over again. I mean, let me just show you a bunch of these stories. As businesses prepare to reopen, workers weigh COVID-19 risk against the need for a paycheck. This is, I'll start you off light. But in this story, they basically, I'll read you this. Because many of her workers are receiving unemployment payments that are more than a typical paycheck at the restaurant, West said she's worried that her employees won't want to come back. Let's scale things up a little bit. Restaurants' bailout problem. Unemployment pays more. Restaurants represent less than 9% of Paycheck Protection loan recipients, but as of March, accounted for the majority of layoffs nationwide. Let's kick it up a notch. Another small business headache. Some employees are asking to be laid off thanks to higher unemployment benefits. Whoa. That's a pretty big leap we've gone so far. I'm worried my employees won't come back. Some employees know they'll make more not working too. I want to be laid off. Look, man, the CARES Act tried to do a lot. And I was very much in favor of getting all of this stuff passed as quickly as possible. I think it's fair to point out that in an emergency, we rushed things through, and I said we will face problems with this, no doubt. Several Republicans tried to block the stimulus because they were worried about exactly this, and we're seeing it. Unemployment is extremely high. Jobs are coming back, but people don't want to go to work. So I contrast this with the hilarious people flooding to beaches, yet job openings going unfulfilled. That says to me that people aren't concerned about the virus. They're looking at more money. Now, the first point I want to make, I do want to highlight that Democrats propose keeping the $600 unemployment checks rolling in until 2021. That will exacerbate unemployment. Look, you've got people in stories asking to be laid off. Why are we going to just keep printing more money when people can be getting back to work? Look, if people are not scared and they're willing to go to the beach, they can certainly work their jobs, right? Or maybe they're willing to risk getting sick going to the beach, but they're not willing to risk getting sick by going to work. The first thing I want to say before we read these stories. Right now, you have rent strike protesters. You have student debt protesters. You have mortgage and eviction protesters on the left. In fact, the rent strike protesters on the left have been out much longer than the lockdown protests. See, when all the lockdown first happened, a bunch of conservatives were like, you got it. Then as things went on and there was no end in sight, everything kept being re-upped. Eventually, people said, I can't sit around and do nothing anymore. I have to get back to work. They started reopening, started defying orders, started protesting. We still see the rent strike protesters. I tell you this, an individual holding a sign that says, I need a haircut, asking for one of the least important hygienic things you can do, is still substantially better than someone saying the government should pay for my stuff. Okay. One is like a minor positive and the other is a massive net negative. Now I can understand, putting a hold on certain debts. I can understand putting a hold on rent or something. I mean, these arguments are really hard to make because the economy needs to move. The student debt thing, I think we absolutely could freeze that. And they have, But you have protesters on the left that are demanding that the government print money, give them that money so they can have access to goods. But if no one is making the goods, then what are you talking about? I understand we're in a very, very wealthy system, so we're rather insulated. We could go quite some time printing money before we actually have no supplies left. But what these people don't realize is that as soon as that money hits your bank account, everything, becomes more expensive. The purchasing power of that dollar goes down. We've seen something interesting. Necessities, food, dramatically going up in price, more so than we've seen since the 70s, while everything else is dramatically decreasing because there's no demand for it. So anyway, what we see now, people want to be laid off. They also want to go to the beach. People are trying to find ways to not return to work because they're getting free money, yet they're going to defy the government orders and go to the bar and not wear a mask. How does this make sense? The government is printing money and giving you a check, producing value from nowhere. It's extracting value from our children, borrowing money from ourselves in the future, devaluing the dollar, and straining resources. And you can't even social distance. The point of the unemployment was because you couldn't work. Now that people can, they don't want to come back. Take a look at this story from CNBC. Can you refuse to go back to work and still claim unemployment benefits? Wait, what? What? Why is this even a question? No, the answer is no. You have to, if you reject work, then you don't get paid. Look, man, look, I understand there are problems, the $600 extra, the bonus. I think, we tried to be nice. I question the Democrats' logic now in wanting to extend this into 2021 when jobs are already starting to reopen. Now take a look at this. CNBC, guess what they said? Yes, you can refuse to come back to work. All you got to do is cite safety. What your employer must provide in order to return to work. As businesses reopen, they must follow guidelines from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention intended to protect employees. Employers have the baseline responsibility of providing proper hand washing stations, additional sanitation, and personal protective equipment, such as masks or gloves, and following social distancing recommendations. Certain states may also have more rigorous standards on top of federal guidelines. Okay. To be fair, I get it. They do. That's true. But it seems like they're now offering up this as an exploit. Well, I just don't feel safe. We're talking about a group of people, not all of them, but many of them, who don't feel safe when someone says naughty words. If you're going to use safety as a basis for whether or not you can or can't go back to work, these people are going to claim it's unsafe because of COVID. CNBC says, if someone believes their employer isn't putting in the effort to provide a safe working environment, workers could argue that the conditions are no longer safe and try to refuse work in the first place instead of going in. She adds, the National Employment Law Project has submitted proposals to the Employment and Training Administration to clarify how suitable work applies during the pandemic. So it's possible more guidance will roll out as businesses reopen and workers are called back in the coming weeks. We anticipate they'll come out with more clarity that will help workers be able to return to work only when it's safe. Recent study showed 66% of those getting COVID right now are those staying home. The people who are going out and are working, the essential workers, actually have a lower infection rate, likely due to the fact that they're not in the same place, in a small place, where people are touching everything and coughing in the same room, and they're getting more sunlight. These are just some of the reasons why going out is actually better. So as I've noted, the studies seem to, many times, the studies seem to suggest that social distancing, wearing a mask, hand sanitizer, these are ways we can slow the spread, but the lockdown ain't it. I understand. We're seeing problems from the CARES Act. We're seeing problems from the lockdown. Maybe we made a mistake. That's okay. Pencils have erasers, man. Now that we see the problems coming from this $600 bonus, that people are actually trying to find a way to refuse to work, maybe we should walk that back and say, for now, you're not going to be getting more money if, well, this is the serious conundrum, man. I'll tell you what. We can't have the government shut down businesses, then have people go without money because the government forced them to. They can't pay their bills because unemployment only pays around 67% in many jurisdictions. I don't know how it works across the country. Some places it pays less. So that's why we have the $600. So it makes sense. But now they've created this conundrum, and the Democrats want to extend it till 2021. Man, I don't know. This is rough. So a lot of businesses are still locked down, but I'll tell you this. We're looking at a hodgepodge, mishmash, broken system. That's the best I can put it. There are some people who need the $600, and there are many people exploiting this. So what do you do? I honestly have no idea. Are we going to tell the people who can't go back to work because of government mandate, you get nothing, we're taking it all away because some people exploited it? I don't know. But what do we do about all the people flocking to the beaches saying, I don't care about your rules, I'm going to the beach? Should you then forfeit any bonus you get if you defy the government rule? No, I don't like the government incentivizing people by giving out money like that. Everything's broken. I honestly have no idea. I can tell you, I think at this point, we should have learned our lesson. As people are now asking to be laid off, maybe we need to stop the bonus and maybe we need to slowly start reopening. That seems to be the solution. Like I mentioned, the study's saying essential workers are less likely to get sick, in which case, at this point, we should slowly start reopening, which we are to be fair. We should reopen. People should come back to work. They should not get an extended bonus. Okay, now it's time to start weaning off the teat of the government. And we had the emergency. It's the government's fault. So the government paid. And I'll be careful how I phrase this. Let me walk that back. What I mean is the government is responsible, the various governments, the local jurisdictions, for shutting down businesses. You can't tell someone they can't provide for their family and then, offer them up nothing. So I'm not a big fan of government intervention in this way, but I recognize that this is kind of what government should do in emergencies. I like the idea of social programs. I don't like the idea of them just consistently extending it, refusing to recognize the problems they create. This is my big problem with government. I tend to be moderately left on many issues. And the way I explain it to people is that I think social programs and government programs are really, really great things. 100% I believe it till the day I die. You know why? Because I've benefited from government benefits. I've lost my job. I've gotten unemployment benefits. It saved my life, kept me from being homeless. And I didn't exploit it. I used it as an opportunity to avoid falling in the gutter. And then I worked and then I found my way. I found my way out. The safety net works. The problem is, one, exploitation. How do you deal with that? I honestly don't know, because that's what we're seeing right now. I can tell you this is the opposite of how you deal with exploitation. They're taking advantage of our goodwill, violating what the government requests of them. Hey, don't go to the beach. But then many of these people, I don't want to say it's one for one because I don't know who these people are, but then you have many of these people saying, can I not go to work because I'm getting more money? Or job openings going unfulfilled by people who will just say, but I can't find work because I'm getting more money. So these people, I don't know the percentages, but you have this exploitation, okay? That's a problem. I don't know how we'll solve it. I don't think that's a good enough reason to get rid of the program. What I can say, though, is the government never dissolves the program once they're done. They never stop. They never fail. They just keep dumping more money into it. And the way I've explained it before is, imagine you get a cut on your arm. So you clean it, you put a Band-Aid on it. Congratulations. That's what the social government program is. Now, eventually, you got to take the bandage off and check to see if the problem has been healed. And you know what? Peeling the Band-Aid off hurts. A lot of people are like, do it fast, do it slow. No. And you do it and some hair gets pulled out and you're like, that was uncomfortable. But hey, it's what you got to do. Instead, what we end up with government is they just say, it's starting to get green. Just slap another Band-Aid on it. Slap. And then eventually you have a bunch of big festering bandage, gangrene, and it gets worse. The cure eventually becomes bad. So now we're talking about the cure becoming worse than the disease. And it seems like Democrats are going to exacerbate the problem. As businesses are reopening, we shouldn't be talking about extending these checks until 2021. 538 notes. Many Americans are getting more money from unemployment than they were from their jobs. And hey, guess what? That's okay within reason if it's temporary. If the jobs are forced closed and it's temporary, I get it. There was a viral post on Reddit, and it was really annoying. It was someone saying something like, want to know what I think about someone getting an extra $600 unemployment paycheck? Nothing. I don't care because poor people, are not my enemy or whatever. And it's like, dude, there's also a meme going around saying as soon as you get the money, spend it on gold or whatever because the buying power is going to collapse. I don't think that makes sense necessarily. I don't know. Gold may have taken a big hit recently. I don't know. I'm not saying you should or shouldn't do anything with gold or whatever. I'm making the point that you can't just print money. Money has no value. Like the value of money is in the labor behind it, the energy. One of the most expensive costs for any business typically is labor costs. And I think that's universally true. I'm sure there are some industries where it's like you're buying plutonium or some ridiculously rare, element that can be really expensive. So sure, fine, I get that. Or maybe you have robots running your business. But human energy is, one of the base components of the value of money. These people don't understand that. As you devalue that, then, or you get rid of it by just giving money to people who normally would be doing these jobs, there's no one to do jobs, there's no value behind that money, and eventually the money becomes valueless. At the same time, I get it, demand is drying up, so we're seeing really weird things happen to the economy. But if Americans are getting paid more, and you want to extend this, then eventually there's just no reason for anybody to come back to work. I mean, why? You can just say it's not safe. Hey, the government says so. And the economy just goes up in flames. Here's the weird thing. I don't know what the Democrats want. Do they want people to become dependent on government so that come the election, the 2020 November elections, they're going to say, we're going to give you more money for free? I guess. Seems to be something people would like. Hey, I don't got to work and I get free stuff. And it will only be years later that they realize that all things have a price. Ain't no such thing as a free lunch. I mean, technically there can be, but there's always something given in exchange. Some people get away with getting free stuff, stealing, but eventually you will pay the price, whether you realize it or not. Of course, they're hoping other people do. By them getting money, it's through the taxpayer essentially, and through the devaluing of our currencies. It's hurting our savings and it's causing economic damage, supply chain disruption. There's going to be a ripple effect, and it's going to come back to haunt people. They don't understand that all things have a price. You don't just get given money. You're being told for now, we'll give you food. But now we're seeing stores with supply chain disruption. Now you can't buy a certain amount of meats. Now Wendy's has no burgers. And eventually people are going to realize, hey, I can't get what I want. The problem is I don't think people will put two and two together. That the lockdowns they were supporting because they were getting this free money resulted in the loss of the things they really wanted. Now, take a look at this story from Axios. It just came out. Job openings report shows record unemployment rate still understates true number. The difference in layoffs between U.S. JOLTS and non-farm payroll reports. They basically just point out that job openings and, unemployment, these numbers suggest unemployment's actually a lot worse than it really is. And it's already incredibly, incredibly bad. It's the worst we've seen since the Depression. And some people are suggesting it could get even worse still, maybe even as high as 25%. So I'll tell you this. Here's the point I wanted to make. While it's true, China takes the most blame for lying, the World Health Organization disseminating false information. We still have to recognize we have a responsibility when it comes to the coronavirus. If the Democrats are going to continually incentivize people not to work, then you can't blame the unemployment numbers on the president who's trying to get people back to work. Many the Democrats will argue in turn, the Republicans are callous and don't want to help Americans. Well, now we have this HEROES Act or whatever, and the Democrats want to extend this money. So I'll tell you what's going to happen. A large portion of people will find ways not to come back to work. This is the tweet. A restaurant in Phoenix with 30 job openings can't find applicants. Why would they? Look, I got to be honest, from an individual point of view, you'd be stupid to go and take a job and lose that sweet $600 a week. Democrats are talking about pushing that into 2021. Don't take the job now. You'll lose money. And that's what's going to happen. I know some will argue that's the intent. They want the unemployment to be bad, hoping that a superficial unemployment will still hurt Trump in November. I'm not entirely convinced. I think we're dealing with a culture war which supersedes anything we think we know about, electoral politics. Does the economy really even matter anymore? I don't know, man. It's more about sports team politics at this point. But this might be a way to make sure that people don't come back to work so they can keep ragging on Trump over the unemployment numbers. The one thing they don't understand, I don't necessarily think that's the case. I think they're just like, give people stuff. People like free stuff. But in the end, Americans blame China. They really do. And whether or not the numbers are bad, the economy is bad, I don't think it really matters. China is at fault for the most part. And that's what people are going to be looking at. Not only that, Donald Trump gave us a beautiful economy, a big, beautiful, a wonderful economy for years. And who are you going to put in charge? Joe Biden? That makes no sense. Maybe they'll swap out Biden, but I don't think they're going to get anyone better because Trump's got a 3-year plus track record of giving us a beautiful economy, the best numbers of our lives. So as this happens, I think people are going to start to look at this and look at the Democrats as potentially irresponsible. Of course, think about all the people who go to the beach and the overlap with some of these people who refuse to go to work. I don't know how many, I don't know, but it stands to reason they exist. Those people are going to vote for whatever they get for free. They don't care about what the government asks. They don't care about what they can do for the government. They want to go to the beach and party. They don't want to go to work. We'll see how things play out. I'll leave it there. Stick around. Next segment's coming up at 1 p.m. on this channel, and I will see you all then.